Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. So, as far as Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, there's just a lot of rumors, things that aren't even true, okay, that's circulating. A lot of people are talking about Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence signing for a trilogy, okay? Listen, nobody really knows what Terrence Crawford is doing. I strongly believe Terrence Crawford has signed with Floyd Mayweather. I do. Or he's worked out some kind of arrangement where he's being advised by Mayweather or Al Heyman. But at the same time, he's not sacrificing a large percentage of his fight purse to them, kind of like what he was doing with Top Rank. Now, we know with Al Heyman, he's an advisor. We understand that he doesn't take much of a fighter's purse when you compare that to other promoters. We know that with fighters under other promoters, they got to pay the promoter, they got to pay the manager. With Al Heyman, you're just paying him. So he takes care of his guys. He encourages them to form their own promotional companies, and he just urges them to kind of really learn the business. And he puts more money back into those guys' pockets. And I like Al Heyman. Now, I do think there's some relationship that is formed. And I said that in another video. When Floyd Mayweather is talking on your behalf, he almost tells on himself that he's representing you to a certain extent. And then he'll go back and backpedal and talk and say, well, look at my situation, and there were false reports about me fighting Manny Pacquiao and me fighting this person. So I think Floyd's already spilled the beans, that there's some relationship that's been formed there. Okay, but as far as the fight, now, I'm going to go ahead and say this definitively. Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford are fighting in October. I believe it's the 29th, okay? And I'm not talking about what's on somebody's YouTube channel, right? Because we all know that 99% of that shit, guys will just say anything. They'll listen to a video, hear somebody say something, and then go and put a spin on it. And I'm not knocking it. I think it's cool that, they're covering boxing. But to knowingly put crap out there, I think that's kind of, it's fair play, okay? But it's just not my style. But when it comes to Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, why in the world would Terrence Crawford, right? And this is, if they're trying to push this, I don't know. But why would Terrence Crawford want to lock himself into a 3-fight deal, okay, when he's coming out of a situation where his hands were tied? He's not going to want to do that. But at the same time, if you're going into an undisputed fight, there should be a rematch clause, okay? But at the same time, let's say Spence viciously beats Crawford down and knocks him out. Who's going to want to see the rematch? Okay? Some people argue about Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Like, nobody wanted to see the third fight. I personally did, because there was so much said about that second fight. Well, first fight too, but the second fight, and then the third fight. And when it happened, kind of, okay, it is what it is. But then this stuff about Kinahan comes up. So it's like, it's over. Tyson Fury is the better man. But there's still some stuff that just doesn't seem right. But as a result, that made having the second and third fight that much more interesting. But Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, if we don't have to deal with those kind of allegations and something about cheating, right? If it's just Errol Spence comes in and just beats down and knocks out Crawford, or Terrence Crawford comes in and just beats down Errol Spence and knocks him out cold, just viciously, all one-sided, right? Why would you want to see a rematch? Okay? But at the same time, you want to have that safety net there, because you're going in with a title and you could lose it. And hey, maybe things just didn't go your way that night. So you want to have that safety net to secure an opportunity to fight for your belt or for all the belts a second time. Now, going into that second fight, if you lose, then it is what it is. But if you win, then maybe they have a trilogy, right? But I would think if the person wins twice, it's over. But if it's super one-sided the first time, it should be over, in my opinion. But I can see 2 fights, and I can see how the 3 fights come about. But I can't see Terrence Crawford, at his age, wanting to be messing around for the next year and a half, fighting Errol Spence over and over and over. But that's part of boxing, okay? And this is for all the marbles. So it almost makes sense to have the 3 fights. But I just don't see Terrence Crawford being okay with being locked into a trilogy. Now, if they try to set him up with something similar to what happened to Devin Haney, I'm not talking about the purse split and all that. I'm just talking about the fact that he's locked into 2, maybe 3 fights with Kambosos. But if he beats him a second time, that's it. Okay, so you got to get the 2 fights in. Then there's a 3rd fight there where he has 3 fights. He's got to fight Lomachenko. Okay, now if Crawford can get, say, 1 or 2 fights with Spence, and let's say he wins those, and then he goes and gets Jermell Charlo, that'll be a 3rd fight. I could kind of see something like that, but at the same time, I don't see Terrence Crawford wanting to be locked down for the next couple of years, having to fight 2 specific opponents. I just don't think he's going to want to do that. I don't. Okay? Now, does it sound like a good idea? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happens in boxing, right? But we have to peel the layers back and understand Terrence Crawford and his posture and his history with promoters and kind of where he wants to be at and the kind of control he wants over his career. Now, although it's going into an undisputed distinction, I just can't see him. And that could be what the sticking point is, okay? That could be why they just haven't, put wet ink, wet signatures on the paper, on the contract, because maybe that's the sticking point to all this. This man doesn't want to be handcuffed anymore. But I don't know, okay? But with Errol Spence, I think Errol Spence is like, whatever, man. I think Errol Spence is more cool about things because going into the 1st fight, I personally think he should get the most money. Going into the 2nd fight, I think I'll put it to you this way. I said in another video. After the first 2 fights with these guys, Errol Spence should still have ended up with the most money. It's just how it is. And then that's what I think Terrence Crawford isn't okay with. Okay, I think he feels like it should be even across the board. But it comes back to what I've talked about in other videos about resumes. Some of these other boxing channels, they don't even touch on that. They just take something and run with it and speak with a lot of emotion. And when it comes to these 2 guys, they both deserve to get paid handsomely. But you just gotta look, I mean, what Terrence Crawford did at 140, that doesn't equate to having a belt at welterweight. That doesn't equal having a title. Okay? So Terrence Crawford has a title, and he was undisputed at 140. So even if we'll say, okay, his resume is equal to him having 2 belts. The one he has, and just let's say he's done so well in boxing. Let's just give him credit for having another belt. Okay, but Spence has 3. So what are we talking about? All right. But going forward, I'm very interested in seeing what ends up playing out. But one thing I know for sure is Terrence Crawford can't afford to be out that ring too long. And Errol Spence can't afford to go on too much longer without these guys having a deal in place, because these organizations, I've said it before, these guys are complicated and they only care about themselves, and they will start pushing the mandatories and going to purse bid, and they'll just make all of our lives miserable because they don't care. They don't care about having an undisputed fight. All they care about is their belts being defended and them getting paid a little, 3% or whatever it is, up to $200,000 max. That's what they care about. So So there's more to come. A lot of people are talking about this. You know, they're talking about, you know, even putting a max weight on it, where Errol Spence can't come in to fight over 155 pounds or something. You know, now, nobody knows this, but this is the stuff that's being thrown out there. But I do believe that there may be a little bit of truth rooted in some of this. Maybe there are things that, you know, aside from money, that's creating problems for this fight. We know Errol Spence, man, it's amazing how he's able to melt down to 147 pounds for a moment in time just to get on that scale and see that magic number. Because Errol Spence really is a big guy. Terrence Crawford is not a huge guy, but with his frame, I think Terrence Crawford could definitely hold a lot of weight on him. You gotta look at this. This man's weighing 147 pounds with no fat, nothing, okay? He can afford to put on 20 pounds and get up to 170, 175. He would look super healthy, and he would look outstanding at 175 pounds, Terrence Crawford. But these guys melt themselves down to this weight class that really they shouldn't even be in. But they do it, okay? So if there was a rehydration clause in a contract that one doesn't agree with, that's going to be a sticking point. Okay, so who knows? Who knows? But I could definitely see a lot of these minute details and stuff that judges have to iron out. I do, but a trilogy, I don't know. Maybe some of you guys right now we're all excited because we got the two best welterweights in the division. You know, it looks like they're going to go ahead and get the fight on. But if it's all one-sided, it's like looking at what happened here with Joe Smith and Bertabiev, right? Who want to see that again? Devin Haney and Kambosos. You really want to watch that? I mean, come on, man. It's ridiculous. You know, it's just, even when Floyd Mayweather came out here and he clipped Arturo Gatti. And he clipped almost everybody he was clipping. I mean, you really want to see those fights again? The Madonna fight? That was worth watching again, okay? So if we have something like that, it's worth watching again. But if it's just so one-sided, I mean, he just washes them, doesn't make any sense, okay? And that's for either one, because that could happen, because, you know, styles make fights. And Sean Porter shouldn't be used as the measuring stick, because just because Errol Spence didn't knock him out and Terrence Crawford did, that doesn't mean Terrence Crawford's going to knock out Errol Spence, okay? Sean Porter fought the style of fight that he felt was best against Errol Spence. And Sean Porter fought the style of fight he felt was best against Terrence Crawford. And in both fights, Sean Porter had a lot of success. The problem is he only gave Errol Spence one opportunity, and Errol Spence capitalized. With Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter gave Terrence Crawford too many opportunities, and Terrence Crawford capitalized and got him out of there. That's the difference in the fight with Porter and Spence, Porter and Crawford. Is Porter gave one too many opportunities to Terrence Crawford. Had he not done that, Sean Porter would have beat him, because he was out boxing him. Okay, and we know Crawford is a slow starter, but once his corner told him, hey, this is what's going on, he picked up the pace, and instead of Porter moving and boxing, he chose to engage, and he just got caught. And it is what it is. So with Crawford and Spence, although I'm picking Crawford to win that fight, I'm telling you, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I'm just picking Crawford because I think Crawford has proved that he can make adjustments on the fly. With Errol Spence, he can box, he can bang. He's very good at what he does. I just don't think it's going to be enough. First 6 rounds, like I said, it's Spence. After that, I think Crawford's going to really pull away. But I don't know, man. It's a close fight. It's 50-50, man. But we'll see. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it as that. These guys having a trilogy, I'm not sure. Crawford and Jamel, that I'd like to see. And I'd like to see it sooner than later. So if him and Spence have 2 fights, it is what it is. Go on to the 3rd fight and let it be Jamel or something like that. Not another fight with each other. Unless they're like Terrell Ward type action-packed fights. But with these 2 guys' styles, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that. So I think we can forget it. Keith Thurman and Porter was exciting. Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia was exciting. Now, it wasn't Gardy Ward, but it was exciting. Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, I just don't think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a lot of disappointed people out there. I really do. I think it's good for us who are diehard boxing fans and who are watching and understanding what each of these fighters are doing in the ring, because it's almost like we're in the ring with them. But for those who are just looking to see 2 guys come in like a shootout, you're not going to get that, okay? But that's neither here nor there. I'm going to leave it as that. Why sign a 3-fight deal? Who wants to see them fight 3 times, especially if somebody just gets totally washed in the first fight? Doesn't make sense to see it the 3rd time. But that has yet to be seen. But anyway, man, shout out to all the veterans. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I appreciate your support, hanging in there with me. Let's keep the channel growing. You guys keep safe, and as always, I'm in the breeze.